And we're honored to have with us today Vikrant Mathur, the co-founder of Future Today. And Vikrant, thank you for joining us today. And could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at the company as co-founder?
Absolutely. Thank you, Paul, for having me. Future Today is a leading independent ad-supported platform for connected television content. We have two lines of businesses. We have our owned and operated channels that we operate across a multitude of different platforms. And we also have a technology platform business where we work with a number of third parties and help them distribute their content, build an audience for their content, as well as monetize it in an ad-supported environment across various OTT platforms and services.
Thank you. And I think I'd like to launch right into a few questions that I had. And the first, and perhaps the biggest and broadest, is that we're living in an era where we're probably in one of the most connected, tech-aware times in history. And it's probably even become more connected over the course of the pandemic, and how everybody has really embraced technology. And from your perspective, what are the most influential industry and consumer trends that have shaped the last several years in the video and connected entertainment industry?
Sure. So, we got into the connected TV space, or the industry rather, in 2010, 2011, when we launched on platforms like Roku, Boxy. Yahoo had a product called Yahoo Connected Television. And so we've helped evangelize this space. We've seen it grow and evolve over the last about 10, 12 years almost now. And I can say the biggest shift that has influenced the media industry and the landscape in general is this migration of users, or consumers rather, from traditional television onto streaming platforms, right? I think consumers have been frustrated over the years, many, many years, with the cost that they have to bear or incur to watch content, as well as the lack of choice that they have when it comes to content. And so streaming has really democratized this space where, irrespective of what my interests are and how I want to watch this content, there are so many different apps and services where chances are that I will find the content that I'm looking for. And I can enjoy it either in a subscription environment or perhaps a free ad-supported environment, which is where we play.
Yeah, and I think that's a tremendous aspect to highlight, or trend that's really been influential, is just that democratization of access to content. And even if you don't have money, right, the level of access you have on an ad-supported basis. If you think just a few years ago, the prospect of getting access to any kind of premium content, you had to think about a paid TV subscription, and that's not necessarily the case today. So my next question that I had for you is that, building on that there's many, many companies in the streaming video arena today, and competitive advantage is always being sought, and differentiation has always been sought, and there's a number of different challenges, actually quite a few challenges faced by all the companies in the space today. And in your opinion, how has the role of technology evolved to better meet all of these challenges being faced by companies in this space?
Yeah, I know. I think technology has really been at the centerpiece of this revolution. If you think about, the cable pipe or the satellite dish that you're accessing content through traditionally, versus, an IP-enabled backbone through which you can not only have, one-way communication, but really collect a lot of data and use that to really improve the consumer experience. I think technology has really been pivotal in terms of just the role that it has played. Not to say that we're there in terms of where we need to be. I think we have a long way to go. But I can speak, from our standpoint, we play in the kind of free ad-supported environment, and for us, technology really impacts two, if not more, aspects of our operations, right? The first being from a consumer experience perspective. How do we give consumers the experience where, on a 55-inch TV, where you have a really clunky remote control and very limited real estate, how do we give users the experience of discoverability of content that they have come to expect from a desktop or a mobile device where everything is at the tip of your fingers? And so, talking about data collection and using that data to influence recommendations, to personalize the content, and making sure that if you're sitting on a library of tens of thousands of videos like we are, you surface the right content to the right user so that they can find the content that they want to watch, really engage with it, and come back to get more. So that's one aspect of it. And I think just kind of an extension of that concept is the relevancy of advertising, right? Where when I watch TV, traditional television, I feel like a lot of the ads are not really relevant to me. And when I watch streaming television, it seems like there's a lot more relevance to the ads that I watch, right? And that's because you can really hyper segment your audience. You can really hyper target your audience. You can collect a lot of data. You can measure it. You can feed it back into your systems and continue to refine the relevancy, at a very kind of granular, almost a household level, right? And so from both of those standpoints, I think at least in the free ad supported space that we play in, technology has had a big impact, and it will continue to do so.
Right, and I think if you look at how the nature of the experience has evolved because of that, I think it means quite a bit to improving the overall engagement, right? I mean, the former dynamic was people hated watching ads. Apologies to all the advertisers out there, but you were served whatever ads that a traditional network decided to slot in, right? But now, because of that addressability, because of that specificity, you are not necessarily as averse to the ads that come. That doesn't mean you're going to convert, but it does mean that they are more relevant to you than the ads of old, right? So your engagement that might have slipped away when you're served an ad, it's less likely to happen, or it's likely to be less extreme, that turning away from experience than the experience of old. So it's definitely changed that entire viewing dynamic, even for the free ad supported space. And the next question I'd like to ask you is, everything has been evolving very quickly in the video space, especially in this last year or two. And in this fast moving, fast evolving environment, even post pandemic, what do you think the next 3 to 5 years in the video and connected entertainment space are going to look like?
Yeah, I think, we're going to continue to see this revolution that we've been seeing in the industry over the last, 3 to 5 years. We're going to continue to see more and more content come into the systems, various services, platforms. We're going to see more and more users, again, migrate away from, traditional television packages onto streaming television. And we're going to continue to see more and more advertising dollars kind of follow the eyeballs, and bigger budgets being spent on CTV, and a lot more television money, coming into the CTV ecosystem. So just at a macro level, I think that's what's going to continue to happen. But overall, I think there's going to be a lot more consolidation. So you're going to see, content companies perhaps join forces. You will see, what you saw with Amazon, where, big tech companies, platforms, they will continue to invest in content and, continue to bolster their own content offerings. And so you will see studios get gobbled up by, in addition to consolidation within the industry, studios being gobbled up by the big operators or OEMs who control the interface and can now really build a content experience for the user and get the content in front of the eyeballs. And then, overall, again, vertical integration in terms of, technology, where platforms are going to be more sophisticated in terms of advertising that they run, in terms of data collection, in terms of measurement practices. So you will see consolidation happening there as well, where perhaps ad tech companies will get acquired either by big publishers who have significant scale and are looking for a unified offering that they can go to the advertisers with, or perhaps OEMs. We saw LG acquire Alfonso, which was in the TV measurement space and targeting space. And so I think those kinds of acquisitions will continue to happen, and it's a lot of players in the space right now, but I think in 3 to 5 years there's going to be significant consolidation.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting to watch all of the M&A activity happening, because I agree there's a lot of vertical integration taking place where you've got platform owners or developers or holders, however you want to refer to them, picking up content, right? Creating their own unique content, and then also getting into advertising and measurement as well. Yeah. And then some companies, if they're fully vertically integrated, they also make the hardware, right? Yeah. And so you have newer entrants to the market that understand this dynamic, and as the smart TV becomes the central point of aggregation of consumption and also control in the home, so to speak, of the main home entertainment consumption experience, a lot of big players in the industry are understanding that it's important to own this point of control, right? This point of data collection, this point of aggregation, and also a point where they understand all of the data that comes with it and what it means for advertising, right, and measurement. And that's a huge treasure trove to own long term, especially if you're talking about addressing an installed base that's built up over time. Yeah. So I think understanding that where that power is shifting to now, and the big players really picking up the pieces they need to have more and more control over this point of aggregation, it's very interesting to watch. So yeah, I'm very curious.
Yeah, I think the companies that own the interface, eventually they're going to be the big winners in this ecosystem.
Yeah, so I know the advertising industry is watching very excitedly, I think is a very diplomatic way to put it, at the amount of advertising control that's now shifting towards the big CTV players. So I'm very intrigued by what's going to happen. So in any case, Vikrant, thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and an honor to have you with us today. Very interesting conversation. And, we're looking forward to having you again in the future.
Likewise. Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Steve Nason, Director of Research, overseeing our entertainment research practice here at Parks Associates. And I'm thrilled today to be having a chat with Mike Green, VP of Strategic Development and Alliances at Brightcove. How are we doing today, Mike?
I'm well, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, really appreciate you taking the time today to discuss our industry. So, Mike, I think it would be great if you can give kind of a brief overview of Brightcove and your role there.
Sure. Now, as you said, I'm Strategic Development and Alliances here at Brightcove. I'm in our corporate development group. I've been here for about 7 years. Prior to that, running product marketing, as well as looking after our solutions for our media customer base. And for folks who want the refresh on Brightcove, since 2004, Brightcove has been helping our customers leverage the power of video across platforms. I would say that we're best known for providing a industry-leading platform called Video Cloud and a range of cloud-based modular services for the delivery and monetization of video across every device.
Awesome. Appreciate that overview. So let's jump right into our conversation. So kind of from your perspective, let's go over the last 2 or 3 years, because obviously we've had this world-changing event with COVID-19. What kind of trends have you been seeing from the industry, from your work at Brightcove, from your clients, kind of the trends that have been experienced in the video space?
Sure. Well, I think you start with consumer behavior driving a lot of the priorities for our customer base and for media companies and for content owners. And even sort of prior to COVID, certainly the overall macro trend, I would say, is just the growth in available viewing hours. And primarily that was driven first by smartphones and better connectivity for turning viewing hours to being not just something that happens at home in the evenings, but to being, during the day, live streaming sports consumed out of home on the weekend. But also, again, within the home, device proliferation has meant that every member of the family can be consuming their own personalized stream, personalized in a way that wasn't really even offered by, broadcast or cable and legacy model. So I think for media and content owners, they think about video in terms of what is the return I can get on my investment in these rights or in this content that I've produced. And the growth overall in hours available of viewing has been the opportunity that they've been looking to take advantage of. And so they look for Brightcove to help figure out how to deliver in all those environments and how to do so with the maximum monetization possible across different business models, ad-supported, subscription, and otherwise.
And kind of branching off on that, so how have you kind of seen the impact of COVID-19? Obviously, you mentioned on the consumer side, consumption going way up, and there's been more fragmentation, more competitiveness on the industry side. So how kind of has your organization and Brightcove kind of adjusted to this new normal?
Sure. Well, our industry, in media has different types of content owners. And what we found was that, in the beginning of the pandemic, obviously, a lot of our sports-based customers were retreating from being able to offer live events and, the usual array of programming, but then found a way to kind of keep fans engaged with things like archival games and other experiences. Whereas our long-form content, companies like AMC, who runs on Brightcove, found, spikes in episodic viewing. And so it was always a balance during the pandemic about where the viewing was coming from. Of course, we have enterprises, if you will, who may look like media companies in the way that they take their brands and generate. For South by Southwest, for example, has created a OTT channel basically out of what was just a short conference. So there was a lot going on during the pandemic in terms of finding ways to keep audiences engaged and drive consumption behavior and get that ROI out of the content investment that was already there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You kind of touched on this in your intro, but kind of what are some of the use cases or business problems, and especially in this highly competitive market, that your clients are coming to you to help solve?
Sure. I mean, so the sort of differentiator, and it's one of the reasons why I think clients trust Brightcove, especially now with video being so mission critical, with a lot of the in-person things moving online, like live events and so forth, reliability, scalability, and security. Those are things that are applicable pretty much in every business segment that we're talking to customers in. People who need to be able to take a live sporting event and have it go from a couple 100,000 concurrent viewers to maybe a couple million towards the end of an event, where obviously on social media you may be aware that it's highly compelling, last few minutes of a basketball game and so forth. It has to be secure. People want to ensure that none of their streams or their movie catalogs and so forth are being stolen or downloaded illegally and so forth. The Oscars obviously trust us from a security perspective, and reliability just has to do with uptime across the system. And all that kind of ties together with being able to ensure that whatever distribution points a content owner is reaching end consumers, the monetization is there, is complete. Whether it again is an SVOD model or a ad-supported model. So those are the kind of problems. They sound fairly general, but they're actually a little bit more complicated and nuanced depending on the type of user experience or device array that a content owner is targeting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would imagine those are critical to a lot of different organizations throughout the ecosystem. Really great perspectives, Mike. I just want to kind of wrap up, kind of spinning it forward. Where do you kind of see the video space, connected entertainment space, kind of evolving from here? Now that we kind of settled, hopefully, into this new normal, post-COVID, kind of bring ourselves out of it. Where does the industry kind of go from here?
I think so much has been focused on delivery, being able to just deliver the content to all the different endpoints. And sometimes I hear people say things like, oh, that was just the first half, was ensuring that we could get video to consumers wherever they are under any given network conditions or devices and so forth. That sounds easy, but I think there's actually still a long way to go. If you look on, obviously, Twitter or somewhere, the vitriol towards any of these services when they're having outages towards their premieres and that sort of thing, like delivery is way better than it used to be, but it's not solved. It doesn't mean that monetization is intact everywhere and so forth, or that the user experience you're able to provide on one device is successfully delivered on all the other devices in a way that becomes kind of comfortable to the end consumer. So delivery is part one. I would say, perfecting the experience in terms of using data to better inform what presentation you give a user or how you monetize a given stream, finding the right balance in terms of ad loads for somebody who's a subscriber versus who isn't. There are all sorts of things we should be doing to evolve past what we've done so far, I think, to make for a better end user experience and more successful use of our video rights and opportunity to stream.
Yeah, really well said. And that's a great way to wrap up our conversation. Unfortunately, out of time today. Really appreciate your time and perspectives today.
Thank you for having me, Steve. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
If you miss a live session, you can go back at any time to watch on demand. Go to Watch Replays and click on the session that you want to view. Have you created your own event agenda in SwapCard? Visit the Agenda and Watch Replay tabs to add sessions that interest you to your own event. You can go back to My Event to revisit any bookmarked sessions, sponsors, and items. We want to make sure that you're connecting with our industry-leading sponsors. You can interact with them by visiting the Booths and the Sponsor tab. You can also bookmark sponsors or add items to your event to view later. Sponsors have uploaded extra materials for attendees. Make sure to visit sponsors that interest you to chat with one of their team members or save documents for later. We have dedicated meeting slots set up for break times between sessions. Continue the discussion by requesting meetings from others in the SwapCard platform. Schedule a meeting with another attendee or a sponsor by visiting their page. The panelists and speakers will be addressing your questions live during the stream. During the stream, use the question tab to ask your questions early in the presentation. Go to the poll tab to answer polls that will be discussed during the live stream. If you need help navigating SwapCard, please reach out to our team by mentioning @Parks Associates in the chat box or by contacting one of our team members via our company page. Welcome to the 4th annual Future of Video OTT Pay TV and Digital Media, a virtual series taking place across 2021. Consumers and their entertainment choices are the key drivers in the entertainment industry. As more video entertainment options become available, bringing more freedom of choice, consumer preferences will determine their usage patterns and the size and content of their portfolios. Market conditions have also changed the nature of competition in video services. Consumers are willing to carry multiple video accounts to get the content they want, so in many instances, a service is desired based on how it complements other services in the market. Thank you for attending Future of Video OTT, Pay TV, and Digital Media.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon Parks Associates Future of Video session on OTT Bundling Partnerships. We'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors that make today's session and the Future of Video series possible. Our research partner, Everrise and Symphony Media AI. Our session sponsors, Comcast Technology Solutions and Delta Tray. Our gold sponsor, Bright Cove and Future Today, and our silver sponsor, BitMovin. And thank you to Metrological for sponsoring our break. We thank all of you for your support of Future of Video. We want to thank our Media and Industry Association supporters who make today possible as well. Our Platinum supporters, Cedia, Connected Design, DealerScope, SCTE, the Monitoring Association, and the Z-Wave Alliance. Thank you also to our supporters from the Asia Video Industry Association, the Home Grid Forum, and the Media Institute. We thank you all for your support of Future of Video. To give you a quick summary of this afternoon's events, I'll start with some insights and perspective on the industry as it relates to OTT services and bundles. Then at 2:15, I'll chat with Jeremy Simon, VP of Global Streaming Partnerships for AM Docs Media. At 2:45 this afternoon, Elizabeth Parks, President of Parks Associates, will then conduct an executive Q&A with Michael McLean, co-founder and CFO of Friendly TV. Following that, we'll have a fantastic panel discussion on OTT bundles and partnerships with Susan Aliata of Samsung Electronics, Matt Durgan of LG, Matt Graham, GM of Acorn TV, Vikrant Mathur, CEO of Future Today, and Miguel Rodriguez from Kaltura. Our audience Q&A with the presenters will follow after the panel, and then we hope you will all join us for our Zoom Room networking discussion on why our bundling partners so appealing in the OTT services. Before we begin, I'd like to encourage our audience to submit your questions for the panel at any time during today's program through SwapCard. It's been a great year for the industry and the Future of Video series, and today is our final Future of Video session before the new year. Please remember that all of our sessions may be seen and replayed at any time with your swap card platform. And before we begin, let me introduce myself. I'm Eric Sorensen. I am a senior contributing analyst at Parks Associates within the entertainment team. I cover the OTT streaming media services. I've been in the sports, media, and entertainment space for almost 20 years, and I've worked in partnerships, product development, content development, and digital media streaming strategies over the course of my career. I am honored to be here today with this group to discuss bundling and partnerships as the ecosystem has changed and all stakeholders are competing for an advantage. So we all know how competitive and dynamic the OTT streaming business is. There's new providers entering and exiting on a regular basis, and no one can truly go it alone. It's dynamic. Content owners, service providers, technology and analytical partners, and even advertisers and brands all vying for the dollar of the end user. However, we must start somewhere. And today we'll explore the different types of bundling partnerships with our panel to gain a better understanding of what bundles are proving to be successful. So I wanted to give a little historical content. We're all familiar with the former telco bundling approach, which was your phone, internet, and cable bill all bundled together at seemingly a discounted price. Then came along the unbundling of content as broadband internet connections expanded. Parks Associates estimates 88% of all homes in the United States are now connected to the internet via a broadband connection. And during this unbundling, people stopped having their home phone, and then later they stopped having a cable bill. So enter the skinny bundle. Seizing on the opportunity of the expanded broadband market, Dish launched a skinny bundle of streaming TV channels. Skinny bundles tend to be cheaper than cable packages than the traditional cable package. And in January of 2015, Sling TV was the first skinny bundle to get widespread distribution. Sling TV also offered customers the ability to customize their bundle with add-ons at little or minimum cost. Then in 2016, Sling did something that no one expected. It teamed up with Comcast, which set off a new trend in entertainment options with vMVPDs and streaming bundle deals. Today, we have partnership development and rebundling throughout all of connected entertainment. So why are competing companies bundling their products together? Well, one reason might be a collaboration may assist the OTT service in standing out from the crowd or getting attention among a certain sector of potential viewers. Another reason might be companies benefit from these alliances by increasing the brand awareness and expanding into new markets, or enhancing the value of their product and services. There may be revenue sharing agreements that draw a partner into a bundling deal. And then there's the old adage that two heads are better than one, and that couldn't be more true when it comes to developing your customer acquisition plan. Improving operational expenses is a long-term endeavor that cannot be accomplished in a single day. It is simply easier to ensure that procedures, people, funds, and technology are all optimized when resources are pooled together. So we can't possibly include all the many forms of today's bundles and partnerships, but there are a handful that make sense for us to explore. For example, content bundles. These are bundles of content, such as the Disney package, which are purposely built to appeal to the masses. The Disney bundle caters to the masses by leveraging its mix of content rights for sports fans, diehard Disney fans, and the entertainment enthusiasts. Then you have the original equipment manufacturer, who is somebody like a Roku, who is bundling with HBO Max. And just this month, they announced that for 30 days, you can get HBO Max for free on any new Roku streaming device that's activated by January 14th. So content owners working with OEM devices. Another example would be managed service providers, like AT&T Fiber offering 6 months of Stadia Pro gaming when you sign up for their package. Or Verizon, for example, who's offering SVOD for Discovery Plus to unlimited mobile subscribers for a year. And then they offer Disney Plus and ESPN Plus and Discovery Plus, Apple Arcade, Google Pass, Apple Music. They'll throw in the kitchen sink if you're willing to sign up for one of their mobile plans. So now I'd like to transition to review some recent data from Parks Associates that illustrates the latest impact on the OTT market that is leading us to this increase in bundles and partnerships. So Parks Associates has been conducting customer surveys from the inception of OTT streaming. When Sling debuted its skinny bundle in 2015, just 36% of broadband households were subscribed to at least one connected OTT service. According to a recent Parks Associates survey taken in the third quarter of 2021, 80% of all broadband homes now subscribe to at least one OTT streaming service. In addition, about half of all broadband homes subscribe to 4 or more OTT streaming services, putting that at about 49%. So as a business in this ecosystem and looking at service stacking, there are inherent benefits for finding ways to partner your service with another one that might be stacked above or below you on the consumer's menu screen. Another item to think about when setting up a partnership is how consumers will find new content to watch. Parks Associates' new Q3 study identified 3 important areas that are dominating the market. Visiting the service provider website directly, such as going to netflix.com and signing up for the service, or using an aggregation service like Amazon Prime Video or the Roku channel to discover new services. And then thirdly, the home service provider, which is the most important for today's discussion. That is, the service is provided to you by your internet, cable, or mobile phone company, making up 37% of how consumers begin to subscribe to a new service. And lastly, our 2021 Q3 survey, we looked at why consumers would subscribe to an OTT service through their home provider. And 32% reported it was because it was part of a promotional package. Reiterating that bundles and partnerships are boosting user discovery of new subscriptions, as well as the overall adoption and growth of the industry. So next, I am happy to present that for our Visionary Insight portion of today's program, I will be joined by my guest, Jeremy Simon. Jeremy is the VP of Global Streaming Partnerships for Amdocs Media. Thanks for joining us, Jeremy. If you're there, would you mind giving us a quick introduction of yourself to the audience? And then I believe you also have a video you brought with us to share.
Thanks, Eric. Great to be here today. Thank you for the invite. Excited to talk about streaming and bundling partnerships. I joined Amdocs Media a few months back, having spent the last 10 years on the operator side trying to deliver these partnerships and having some amazing successes innovating at the cutting edge of partnerships, but also hitting a lot of frustration about how challenging it is for the industry today to deliver those partnerships. And I'm really excited to talk to you about where we see the industry going and where we can help.
Great, and I think you brought a video with you to share for us today to sort of tell us about the business that you oversee at Amdocs. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so we'll run that here now.
People know what they like. Most are interested in paying a single provider, like you, to bundle their preferred digital services. And hundreds of digital players are partnering to expand their global footprint. A golden opportunity to boost your customer stickiness and create new revenues. But here's the deal. Each service integration presents a unique set of challenges. These one-off solutions are very costly and not scalable. Yet scalability is exactly what you need to onboard new partners, keep up with market demands, and pave the path to monetization. Now, what if you could onboard several partners with only one integration, manage these services with one interface, and offer every user one home? Amdocs Media's Market One is the seamless cloud-based platform which affords you a single point of interaction with digital partner services. Here, you can expand your portfolio at lower expense and shorter time to market. Bolster your business strategy with flexible subscriptions and user-centric intelligence. And win new customers while retaining existing ones by offering a frictionless end-user experience. The partner, the subscription, the user, all in one place. Welcome to Amdocs Media's Market One.
Jerry, that's a lot to take in. Can you sort of walk us through a little bit about all of the different aspects of the business that you oversee?
Absolutely. To us, the relationship between the OTTs and operators is really about a network. It's about trying to find ways to allow customers to enjoy the OTTs they want, to discover new OTTs, to make it easier for them to manage their accounts, to sign up, to sign in, and over time to manage those existing subscriptions. And right now, we live in a myriad of silos. Every time to stand up a new partnership takes time, takes money. And as a result, there's a lot of inefficiency and a lot of deals are stuck below the line. So what we do is we help move that line. We help bring scalability and return on investment to the industry. And we help unleash the power of partnerships, which today they're there, but they're not working as efficiently or effectively as they could. And there aren't as many as there could be.
Great. And I know when we first spoke, I guess earlier this week, we talked a little bit about how our panel today and our discussion is about bundling and partnerships. And I think there's an evolution sort of from your perspective on how we got to where we are today. So the first thing that I still wanted to ask you about is, what are some of the consumer trends that you're seeing in the OTT market or in the OTT space right now?
It's really interesting you ask. I was reading your company's own research earlier, how four is the new 3 when it comes to the number of OTTs per household.
Yeah.
But at the same time, churn is now as high as 44% in the OTT space. And so what we're seeing is customers are taking more and more OTTs, but not keeping them as long. And I think this is where it gets very interesting for bundling, because bundling can help with both of those equations. We're also seeing customers are taking less traditional TV, but they're not completely getting rid of TV. According to your research, I saw 1 in 5 broadband homes now taking a virtual MVPD subscription. So what we're seeing is new forms of content. And then similarly, for the last few years, we've been talking a lot about pay subscription OTT services. Now we're also talking about advertising models, whether it's AVOD or fast channels. And that seems to be the fastest growing part of the industry. And the one thing that was fascinating for me over the last few weeks is, as much as it's not only about discounts help get customers' attention. And if you look at Black Friday, the prevalence of discounted deals by OTTs was fascinating, but also the channels through which they're being promoted, from network TV to big box stores to digital providers. So to me, that's showing some maturity, some commoditization in the OTT sector. And I think that's also showing that those deals are now there to be had. A lot of it also comes down to the customer journey and experience. So how can we help customers better manage and discover their subscriptions and help them overcome what's being called subscription overload or subscription fatigue? And the paradox of choice, there's so many OTTs out there, how do I know which one to take? So I think as an industry, we can really help make this easier and better for customers and give them a richer experience. And hopefully in doing so, they will buy more from their providers.
So you mentioned discovery a little bit. So how are sort of the idea, and I sort of mentioned it in a few slides there, but in terms of discovery, how are bundlings help consumers with discovery?
Well, the first thing you can do is you can remove from the customer the need to choose to take a service because it becomes bundled with the mobile plan or device or TV subscription you've purchased. So all of a sudden, rather than having to say, should I buy this? It's given to you for an initial period of time. You can sample it for free. And then at the end of that, you can say, do I want to keep it or not? So I think that's an amazing model for customers. But I also think through the TV operator model in my old company, we allowed customers to choose between OTT subscriptions and linear networks and swap between the two. That allowed customers to sample and buy in a way that they can't necessarily if you're just going to an app store. I was talking to an OTT provider today, and on their website, even though you're not yet subscribed, you can see all their originals and it's really well promoted. And I think as an industry, a lot of content's been hidden behind the paywall, not just the ability to play it, but the ability to browse. And I think there's things that the industry can do there to make it easier for new customers to find and discover new services.
So you touched on the consumer a little bit in terms of trends. What are you seeing from your role in terms of the industry trends that are taking place?
So you've touched on this in your earlier presentation. I think meta aggregation is going to be the thing. It used to be about, I'd take a mobile plan and I'd get one subscription service. Now, one is not enough. It's 2, it's 3, it's 4. A great example is T-Mobile that is doing, offering some incredibly rich offers to their customers, including Apple TV Plus, Paramount Plus, Netflix, Google One Storage. They're offering anti-scam software, and they offer additional benefits through their T-Mobile Tuesdays. So if you put all that together, that's a phenomenally rich offer for a customer to consider and deciding, is this the mobile operator I want to go with? In my old world, we took a slightly different approach to aggregation, which is we put traditional TV and the OTTs together in a single package. And we said, you don't need to cut the cord. We'll put it all together for you. And if customers think about shows, not services or brands, or they don't no longer think about linear TV or OTT, they just think about what they want to watch. As an industry, let's make it as easy as possible for them to consume, search, and buy in that way.
And that certainly affects we're all aware of the cord cutting industry, but that allows those sort of MPDs, MPVDs in that space, in the traditional cable model, to recoup some of that lost revenue by moving it over to the OTT streaming side of the business, right?
Absolutely. And what's really interesting is these partnerships are becoming deeper and richer across the OTT side of the industry too. So we're seeing marketing partnerships. Spotify has launched a Netflix hub. TikTok has playlists on Spotify. Companies like Deezer are now being offered inside RTL Plus, but also in bundles with Disney Plus. So we're seeing the integration of non-content services into content apps. And then we're also seeing D2Cs becoming channels inside other D2Cs. So for example, WWE and Peacock, or UFC on ESPN Plus. We see you can have the benefits of being in the direct-to-consumer space without needing to operate the direct-to-consumer service yourself in every single market.
Do you think in some parts of the industry, maybe it's moving too fast for some players to keep up?
Well, this is one of the challenges I faced in my old life is, as an operator, you want to deliver a subscription to your customers. You want to own that relationship end to end. It's really important because you want to make sure you give the customer the best possible customer service. And what we're seeing is the industry is making this quite hard, because you could do an integration with Disney to sell subscriptions to Disney Plus. But the question is your billing integration sophisticated enough to also cover the transactions that Disney now offers as premium VOD or early access inside Disney Plus? Similarly for Prime Video, Amazon can partner through the Fuse program with operators to offer Prime memberships or subscriptions to their customers. But if the customer is then buying SVOD channels or buying and renting movies through the Prime Video app directly from Amazon, the operator is left with only owning half the customer relationship, only having visibility of half the relationship, and only being able to manage and help the customer with that half. The same is true with Apple TV Plus, and Google. So what we're seeing is the industry is trying to offer multiple things with inside of what was initially just a subscription service, and the integrations that we're launching have to be flexible and they have to be future-proof enough to keep up with the pace of change.
I think that's fantastic insight to sort of think about the pace in the future and sort of being able to keep up with it. From your perspective, how are these trends sort of driving the need for bundles and partnerships?
So what we're really seeing is a big transition from looking at direct carrier billing and just trying to get on a telco bill as an OTT to the desire for richer, deeper bundles, trying to get inside the telco bill as invisible and as deep as possible. And when I talk to our OTT partners about what's driving that, what it really comes down to is many OTTs now have a lot of customers. And when they launch partnerships with distributors, they don't just want to hand those customers over, because they're currently earning 100% of the revenues from those direct customers. And they don't just want to, replace direct billing with partner billing. So what they're really looking for operators to do is to find them new incremental customers. And that is so important to their business model that they will pay higher rev shares for that, and they will prioritize those integrations and partnerships. And so what we're seeing is the industry is really saying direct carrier billing is not enough. It's all about bundles. And that's where we come in, because Market One is really a platform designed to deliver those deeper, richer bundles off the back of the billing stacks that our parent company, Amdocs, built for many operators and carriers around the world.
Do you think that there's some service providers out there who say, I'll give up the revenue share for the exposure or the brand partnership? Is that something that you're seeing in the industry?
So it's really interesting asking partners why they go for those partnerships. And on the operator side, a lot of it is about being able to talk to customers about the latest buzzy content, using that in your acquisition marketing materials. So in my old life, when we launched a Netflix app, we had a jump point, a virtual channel in the guide. And that started life as just a logo. But then we realized that we could actually put a piece of box art in there. It wasn't sophisticated enough to go directly to that show, but we could put the latest buzzy Netflix show visually in the guide, and that actually increased the click-through rates because it gave customers a reason to think about it. And I think the same is true for marketing. You can have partnerships where, one of the benefits the operators or carriers get is rather than just talking about devices which are fairly commoditized or, the traditional side of the industry, you can now associate yourself with the power of the brand and the content that many of these, new streaming services are offering.
So what's sort of getting in the way? I mean, what's getting in the way for growth for these, specifically as it relates to maybe the big three in the industry?
So on the large side, I think what's really challenging is because of the high penetration that some of the largest OTTs now have, they have to be quite selective about who they partner with and how they partner with them. They really want to make sure they get that return on investment from these partnerships. And so it used to be the case of, just launch me, bundle me, add me to your bill. Now they have to think, well, depending on the structure of that partnership, what proportion of the customers I get are going to be new? And where do I go on the bill? Am I a separate line item, or am I deep inside the bill hidden in a bundle, which is likely to give me lower churn? And so what's interesting is we're seeing new battlegrounds in industry between OTTs and operators. It used to be a battle for prominence in the guide. Now it might be a battle for the economic model, the structure in the bill. It could also be there's still battles for prominence around do I have a remote control button? Where am I in the app store? All of these things are really all goes to who benefits most from the relationship. And OTTs are clever. They don't just want operators to borrow their brand and use it to sell TV or internet or mobile subscriptions. It's very important that it's a genuine partnership, and they're really selling the OTT subscriptions as well.
So, asking you to put your forward hat thinking on, but what does bundling and OTT subscriptions look like in the future? What is 2022 going to bring us?
So I think we're going to see more of them. As I was saying earlier, I think we're seeing some maturity, some commoditization in the industry. I think what that means is it enables more and more partnerships to happen. Some of those partnerships were stuck below the line. As I was saying, integrators like ourselves are able to help lower that line, deliver scalability, lower the cost and time to market, and help unlock many of these partnerships that are currently stuck. So I think that's a huge opportunity for the industry. I think what we're also seeing is, originally partnerships started with streaming services, but carriers, especially also operators, are starting to look beyond content. COVID has changed our digital lives, whether it's home fitness, home education, home working, online security and protection. Customers are using these new services day in, day out. They value them. And as an operator or carrier, if I want to own the home, I want to really be the focal point for my customers' digital lives. It's very important that I play in that space and I am able to offer them those services too, as well as just the content that they want to watch.
It's fantastic insight and perspective. We have some questions actually from our audience that I wanted to try to make sure we left some time to get to. So the very first one here is, what is the role of interactive services in the space, you think?
So back in the day, it was very hard for apps to be launched on platforms, because in order to get onto an operator, you had to build a unique dedicated app for that platform. What we're seeing is with the advent of Google TV and Android TV or next generation platforms like X1, operators and carriers are able to offer a multitude of services, and that allows them to go beyond vanilla content streaming services into more interactive services. So I give you the example of Netflix, where you can choose your own adventure. Unfortunately, it didn't work on every device I have, but when it did work, it was something that really engaged my kids. So the interactivity is there, but it's not necessarily there on every device yet. So I think as an industry, we'll get better and more next generation devices that will be able to support not just the app, but the latest version of the app with all the bells and whistles, including interactivity.
Do you think that, as we're talking about bundling and partnerships, one of the questions is if you have any perspective on if we're just doing a repeat of the cable bundle package and now we're doing it in streaming services?
So it's definitely a thing that people in the industry are talking about. Are we going full circle? I think it's different for a couple of reasons. I think in the cable industry, the channel provider really let go of things. They passed a signal to the provider and then they didn't really participate in a relationship. Whereas in streaming, what happens is because of the need to pass through entitlements and allow the streaming customer not only to access the streaming service through their operator, but also on every other device where that streaming service is offered, it means you have a much deeper, much richer relationship. And I think it's more of a partnership than the historic cable relationships used to be.
Another question from our audience, and we're just continuing to pick your brain with all your great insights here, but how do you view engagement? Is it sort of just keeping a subscriber? Like what is the definition of engagement today?
So this is where I go back to the TV industry. And engagement was often about reminding a customer that they had a service and reminding them what content was on that service. And what I find really interesting is the OTT services definitely do it themselves, but this is where a partner can really play an important role in reminding customers of what content is available on which streaming services. And so when operators that offer traditional TV, but also streaming services are communicating to their customers, whether it's in the guide, through a barker channel, through a newsletter or other communications, you can now commingle the traditional TV with the OTTs. And so the partners now not just selling net new subscriptions, but they're also helping the OTTs keep their existing customers engaged. And again, I think this is where the true partnerships are coming.
Do you think that there's a future of more incremental add-on revenues, like, extra experiences, add-ons as part of sort of that bundle?
So I think the bundles will get bigger. And I think what gets bundled will change. As I was saying, it might be beyond content, but what we're also seeing is who does the bundling could also evolve. And so there may be, like if you look at the industry today, you're seeing most of the bundling being done by mobile carriers and TV operators. But there are many other sectors out there that have strong customer relationships and billing relationships. And they're starting to look at this space. They don't necessarily know what to do yet, but they're looking, whether it's banks, digital wallet providers, credit card providers, or utilities. And I'll give you an interesting example. When it comes to add-ons, in my old life, I launched Calm, the mindfulness and meditation app, to our TV customers. At the same time, we offered it to all our employees as a freebie, and we gave it to our customers to, as something they could buy through our loyalty program. At the same time, my credit card company offered me a year's worth of subscription to Calm, and my wife's employer did the same. So what we're seeing is, how you can give a service to a customer can be very different, but it can also come from very different places and through different models, whether it's an add-on, complimentary subscription, a loyalty program where you can redeem, tokens or credits, or, the traditional model of just selling a subscription.
How big of a role is sort of the mobile industry play in bundling right now?
So I think the mobile industry is in a very interesting space because they've spent a lot of money building 5G networks, and they have to figure out how to monetize those investments and how to keep customers engaged and sell them the right products that showcase the benefits of those 5G networks. And one example that I think could be really interesting is cloud gaming. So in the same way that 4K was a way of selling TV subscriptions and new TVs and getting customers to upgrade their TVs, cloud gaming could be a very interesting way for the mobile network to get customers to get onto 5G plans and devices. One of the things we're seeing is that the promise of the Netflix of gaming isn't quite there yet in the offerings that are in the market. So customers today have to often buy subscriptions. Sometimes they have to buy equipment, and sometimes they also have to pay incremental fees to get the latest games. And on the provider side, the carriers often have to put expensive equipment in the network to deliver this. So, I think as an industry, we've got to figure out how to make these partnerships more ubiquitous, cheaper, quicker to market, and more compelling for consumers. But I think if we can pull that off, that cloud gaming has, huge potential to unlock 5G relationships across the mobile sector.
So talk a little bit about mobile there. You mentioned gaming, and my first thought goes to the console gaming as a streaming device. What happened to that?
So a lot of it comes down to what I was saying about, you can have lots of apps, but they've got to keep up with the latest bells and whistles. It's actually quite challenging for OTT providers to support apps on so many devices. And at some point, they've got to rationalize and prioritize. And so I think if you have a streaming console that is the only device connected in the home to a TV, that's wonderful. And if there's a lot of customers, the OTTs will continue to invest in it. But if that streaming console happens to be connected to a smart TV, that smart TV already has the same apps, you're not really adding much value by putting the app inside the console as well. So I think the industry has to rationalize at some point and say, what's the best way to consume that content in the home, given the devices that happen to be in the home?
It's fair. As we got another question here from our audience, which is, what is Amdoc's biggest challenge right now? Any comments on supply chain or workforce issues related to COVID?
I wouldn't say issues related to COVID at all. Thankfully, the streaming industry has, coped very well with remote working on the supply side and the delivery side. I don't see that as a challenge. I think what we're really seeing is, because of disintermediation, networks and studios have got into the D2C space. And what we are really seeing is that these companies are starting to realize what their operator partners did for them. So now they have customers, they've got to manage customers, they've got to find customers, they've got to keep them happy, they've got to show them how to log in, they've got to collect the payment from them and keep the payment. And that was a huge value in the value chain that operators and carriers were providing on behalf of content providers. Now those content providers have gone direct to consumer. They have to take care of it themselves, and it's challenging. So I can see more and more content providers starting to look to vendors to help with that, and we're very active in that space, but I can also see them starting to look to distributor partners to take care of many of those challenges. And that goes back to what we're talking about, the full circle side of the industry and back to cable. And I don't think it's fully back to cable, but there's definitely some analogies.
Well, so from the consumer perspective, recently Parks Associates research found that a cord cutter used to spend $117 a month on their cable bill on pay TV services, and now they're paying $85 a month on OTT services. Sort of talking that full circle, do you see that price continuing to go up, or will consumers work on reducing that through churn or ending their subscriptions?
So what's really interesting is a lot of the research we've seen says that a lot of it's about the customer experience, not just the cost. Customers want to use this content, they want to enjoy it, they need help doing so. And if we can empower the distributors to provide seamless customer experiences where it's easy for customers to find, add, and manage subscriptions, and they can do that in one place, it might well be that customers are willing to take more and more subscriptions. And so, 4 is the new 3, maybe we get to 5, maybe we get to 6. And at that point, the economics for bundling will be even easier for the industry, and I think we'll see more bundles emerge.
So you're envisioning that the consumer experience is going to sort of, I guess, cause them to churn and unsubscribe from those?
I'd say the opposite. I say we can get a seamless customer experience where you can manage all your subscriptions in one place. And this is where mobile carriers and TV operators can really come in, because they can provide a hub that allows their customers to do so, to manage their subscriptions easily, to keep track of their logins and all of that information. And it's not to say that they all need to have the same passwords. There are providers like Apple that need you to use the Apple ID, or Amazon that needs you to use your Amazon membership ID. That's fine. It's still workable. But what it means is you can still enable that customer to manage all those subscriptions in one place. And it could be in the telco hub. So you have your My Telco app or website or portal, and that's a really good place where you can take care of all your subscriptions together. And that helps deal with subscription overload. What we hear is customers have, changing a credit card can freak customers out, because I don't know how to make sure I don't lose my subscriptions, or I don't want to have to give my information out to everyone. So things that, might seem obvious to people in the industry are actually quite frightening for customers. And I think we can reassure them, give them comfort, and by doing so, we can unlock more opportunities.
So simplifying the user experience certainly will help it grow. One other question here from the audience that I want to ask is sort of global expansion, right? So what are you seeing from the industry in terms of the OTT market looking to expand globally, the US market looking to expand globally, and what are the challenges you think that some of those providers face?
So this is a great opportunity for the industry. People have shown Squid Game's a great example that content doesn't need to be made or in the local country or produced in the local language to succeed. And there's content all around the world that people are now discovering. And I think OTT streaming services really well placed to help make those connections. What we're seeing is in order to pull those connections off and take them to market, some of these providers need help in localizing the content and localizing the app, making sure that the customer journey is in the right language, that people can buy it not only in the right currency, but in the ways that people transact. So I'll give you an example. In the Philippines, bank account adoption is around 20%, credit card around 13%. So if you go to market and you only offer the ability to pay through your bank account or credit card, you've lost, 3/4+ of the market. That's not a great experience. So this is where people like digital wallet providers in those countries will play a huge role in allowing customers to pay for subscription services through less traditional new means, whether it's virtual cash or digital wallets.
And I have one other question here for you from the audience, which is, let me see how to read this, or let me see if I can phrase this a little bit differently. What sort of role does discovery play in terms of the OTT providers and the user experience, right? I mean, obviously there's challenges with search and the user menu to find the content that you're looking for, but what sort of role do you think discovery plays?
So this is where I think TV operators are really well placed to help. In the TV world, operators are used to showcasing content that customers still has to pay for within their user interface in EPG. And I think with metadata integration, integrated search, deep linking, you can do the same for the OTTs. And if these partnerships are scalable, you can make it easy for operators to showcase not just content within OTTs to existing subscribers, but also to do it for new customers. And in my old life, we had great success with content sampling. So we would take content out of the app and make it available to the whole TV base. And it was really helpful at driving upsell and engagement to customers, finding not just new customers, but engaging the existing ones. And I think that's where the discovery and the user interface can really, unlock the power of partnerships.
So when we think about your role at Amdocs and what you guys are trying to solve for, what sort of keeps you up at night? What are you thinking about in 2022 that keeps you and your business up at night?
So to me, it's really about how do we unlock all of these opportunities. It's very frustrating talking to so many partners who are looking at doing things in a space and they can't get the right people to pick up the phone. They can't commit resources or budget internally or externally. And there's lots of frustration out there. So right now, every time you build a partner, you've got to build new for that partner. It takes a lot of time. It costs a lot of money, and the ROI isn't always there. So with partnerships, being able to take advantage of platforms like ours, where you go from building one-to-one for every new partner into a one-to-many ecosystem, where you build once and you get advantage of everyone else who's plugged into the other side, whether you're an OTT or an operator or carrier, I think we can really unlock the ecosystem and really drive incremental value for everyone. The challenge is we've got to get there as an industry together.
It's very, very fascinating. And we are certainly excited that you were able to join us today. And we look forward to seeing what Amdocs Media has in store for the future. So Jeremy, thank you again for taking the time to chat with us this afternoon during our Future of Video conference. We look forward to having you back because I think there's a lot of other things that we could certainly talk to you about. But thank you again for your time.
Thanks, Eric.
All right. So now I'd like to turn the floor over to Elizabeth Parks, President of Parks Associates, for our Executive Spotlight with Michael McClan, co-founder and CFO of Friendly TV. And I hope to see you all again in about a half an hour or so for our panel on OTT bundling and partnerships. We're going to take a quick break, And then Elizabeth will be back in a moment with our special guest.
Parks Associates OTT Video Market Tracker service includes a thorough analysis of market trends and profiles of nearly 300 OTT video service providers in the US and Canada. Subscription to the tracker includes comprehensive tracking of OTT video services like Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, Hulu, Disney+, HBO Max, and more. Our analysts update deliverables throughout the year, including a monthly update and quarterly subscriber and user estimates, documenting service features, key service differentiators, pricing and business models, updates on existing players, and profiles and industry implications for new services. The OTT Video Market Tracker features a new way to blend company profiles with industry research data and analysis of competing players' strengths and weaknesses in the space. To subscribe or request more information, please contact us at sales@parksassociates.com.
Welcome back. What a great conversation that was. Thank you so much, Eric. I am excited now to welcome back Michael McLean to our virtual stage. Again, my name is Elizabeth Parks. I'm the president of Parks Associates, and we are excited to have you join us for our final and last session for Future of Video of the year, and also the last set of sessions Parks Associates is hosting for all of our conferences in 2022. So the next time we will see folks will be in person at CES, and we are really excited about that. But let's move along and introduce the co-founder and CFO of Friendly TV. Friendly just announced a new agreement with A&E Network, so we're going to touch on that as well as understand some of the changes in the market since earlier this year. We released churn rates today showing that 44% of US broadband households report churning from their services. And we also know that content is king, which is why today's conversation will be so interesting. Partnerships are also critical, and really all of this is about execution and engaging the consumer. There are very few companies who can say that they are making money in the space, and this is one of them. So let's jump in and get a quick intro from Michael. Can you go ahead and share your role and a little bit more about Friendly TV?
Yeah, thanks for having me back on, Elizabeth. So good to see you, and glad we can be back on and share some more. So I'm the CFO and co-founder of Friendly TV. I think as probably many know, we're a virtual MVPD. We launched in 2019, recently announced that we'd cross the 500,000 sub mark. So we've seen some really good growth. We started as a more of a family friendly focused bundle, and recently added some different content, which we're really excited about. The A&E content, as you mentioned. So we're available we have a number of different plans. We have 3 monthly plans and 3 annual plans. And we also recently expanded our partnership with Hallmark and added Hallmark Movies Now as a bundle, associated with the traditional packaging we provided. So that's us at a high level.
Well, great. Well, let's start the conversation and talk about these partnerships. So we know they're critical to make all these things happen, but there also is, of course, the evaluation that goes into choosing a partner. And, partners can kind of make or break the whole deal. So can you share a little bit more about some of your decision making and what goes into it when you are looking for partners for Friendly and really making it all work, a win-win for both sides?
Yeah, I mean, and I'll probably skew more to talking about content, as in terms of kind of how we evaluated our content partnerships. But we've obviously expanded our reach as well in terms of platforms. So we've expanded the number of platforms we're on. But as far as content goes, I mean, I think when we're evaluating our content partnerships, that we look at a couple things. One is really kind of how are those partners going to help us grow our existing base of subscribers potentially, and then the other really is kind of how do those partners kind of expand engagement and viewership on our service, and so that really kind of helps with the churn aspect of things for us, and also obviously there needs to be an alignment on cost and expectations and terms and whatnot. So.
Well, and certainly, the bottom line is the bottom line. And as the CFO, I'm sure that's something that you're looking at on a probably a daily basis. And so those partnerships, that extension of the brand and the opportunity to reach other people is there. But when you look at it, I mean, are you really looking at the money side, and how big an upside is that? Not just for your, for your service, but for all services, and how they're executed.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly a big piece of it. We do some pretty thorough analysis on kind of like what we think the upside will be with the content that we're evaluating. We also do, we do some research within our existing base. So we have a good sense of what will be appealing to our existing subscriber base before making those decisions. So, cost comes into play, obviously, given kind of how we built the service and have maintained a profitable service and have reinvested the dollars that we've earned back into the business to grow the business. And so obviously we want to continue with that and continue to see the growth that we've seen. And we think that we can, given what we've added and kind of how we've evaluated adding content. We've also added a number of FAST networks. And so we've seen really good engagement and viewership within those networks. So we already had a sense of that kind of going into making those decisions, but we have seen some really strong partnerships from that perspective.
Well, that's great. And let's see if you can share a little bit more about the A&E partnership. So what exactly is happening there? I know you referenced it in the beginning, but if you can lay that out again for our audience.
Yeah. So we launched A&E on Friendly about a month ago. It was almost a month ago.
Congratulations.
And so we added seven linear. There's 7 linear channels there. A&E, History, Lifetime, to name a few. And so we, we're in conversations with them for some time, and obviously really liked the content, really thought it resonated with the base, and also provided a lot of opportunity for us, kind of just given our price value equation. Now with the new content, we did announce a $1 price increase that is taking effect actually today for some of our customers. So we think that that will actually resonate okay with our existing base, and then we think we have a really strong and compelling product and price point moving forward.
Well, that's great. And I do want to get to pricing strategies here in a little bit, but let's stick on this topic of content. When you were looking at that partnership and your team, I assume, looking forward, did you take into account some of A&E's plans for new shows and new content and series that they may be developing or introducing that would help, drive additional interest? I mean, how does that process work when you're looking at a partner and you've got this long-term forward thinking, everybody's looking ahead and looking at the money that's going to come in. And of course, content is so critical. You know, content is king. So how does that process work? And what were some of the things that, you know, maybe ensured that the partnership was going to go forward as a result of what you knew about content that's coming and that investment in content?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and I think we definitely took you know, the new kind of content they're coming out with and events into consideration. I think a lot of, and you guys talk about it all the time, is really just kind of like some of this people subscribing to services now is event driven. And A&E provides a number of those. I think there's close to 20 events that we can kind of market around in Q1 for us, which is an increase for us for sure. So there's definitely opportunities there to kind of target customers kind of based on that, and obviously like their investment into new content, new shows is massive, and so we you know, we definitely took that into consideration when making the deal.
And what about the role of, let's say, new content coming or like new released versus content that's, you know, been around or already been released and people coming back to watch it? How does that factor in for you all?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think we've seen really strong success with like existing content, right? And so we can kind of get our arms wrapped around like, how does that play out? And so at least from my perspective as a CFO, right, I feel better about projecting out or kind of modeling around, you know, knowing what the attractiveness of certain shows or certain series, and obviously like the length of those comes into play as well when trying to forecast out like additional ads and then retention, you know, potential retention associated with that. So, you know, I think we're excited, and obviously like, you know, we're excited about the new content they're producing. But I think we when kind of, I guess, taking like a defensive position and a conservative position when evaluating the partnership, you kind of think about what is it that they have existing, and then from there, you know, we can, you know, we're happy to see and participate in the upside.
Sure, absolutely. Well, it's definitely, there's a lot of experimenting going on, and it sounds like Q1 will bring maybe some new things to your group to, you know, roll out to consumers and see how they respond, and then move forward accordingly. I think that definitely the name of the game is adapting, experimenting, and seeing, you know, what resonates. Given your family friendly content that you're providing, can you share more about just this segment and you know, how you consider your audience when you're looking at partnerships?
Yeah, I mean, we you know, we love our customer base. We you know, we do have a bit of seasonality aspect to our business as it stands today, so we do see some strong growth in Q4. You know, our existing base has been provided to be, you know, loyal and pretty sticky overall. So we've been happy about that. And, you know, we continue to try to kind of solve for maybe different pieces of the business where there's some maybe not as smooth of growth for us, like over the course of the year. And so, you know, back to A&E, that was kind of a big point for us, is kind of how do we that helps us kind of solve for that choppiness between quarters potentially. And so we think that with the additional content we provided and kind of getting our users to view more, obviously, on our platform has yielded like strong benefits there in terms of getting them to stick around, and then also providing, you know, additional content like Hallmark Movies Now. We've seen some strong that's been a strong product for us as well, and just allows us to kind of be nimble in terms of providing both linear content and on-demand content, and providing the consumers with an experience that's friendly, easy to use, they're comfortable with, and really gets them the content that they're looking for, that they want. And so, you know, we've been happy about that, and you know, I obviously going to take that into consideration, kind of moving forward with anything else that we're looking at.
Well, sure, and all that you're saying brings up that keyword engagement that everybody is talking about these days. And so, you know, I think engagement means different things for different companies. It also means different things for a consumer. So, just for example, if you look at B2B virtual events, you know, in the beginning when we were sort of forced to move to this kind of format, everybody was looking for the interactivity and the networking and the things that you would do at an in-person event, which in all reality is it's just not a good thing to go look for, because it's not going to happen, right? We're virtual. There is some engagement and chatting that can go back and forth, but really the engagement that we look for at Parks in our virtual setting is the learning, the bringing people together, the listening, and the, you know, the ability to ask some questions and get some insights. So it's a very educational value. So when you are talking about engagement as it relates to your service and the content, what does that mean for you to have a highly engaged customer? Is it just they're a viewer, they're viewing all the time? Are they doing something else? I mean, what does that word mean for your team?
Yeah, I mean, the way I've been talking about it today is really just is viewership, right? Just getting more usage, you know, just getting them to view and use the service. But, you know, you bring up some really good points there in terms of like, how, you know, the term kind of can be used kind of as far as like getting those customers to use the service on different platforms, kind of how they engage, what they're looking for, you know, those kind of things. But for us, when I'm talking about it's really viewership, and just kind of how do we drive that and kind of maximize that.
Well, that makes sense given your role and title there with CFO. That those viewers certainly add up as well on the money side. Okay, let's move along here and talk a little bit about a pricing strategy. So you did note that $1 increase, not really a lot, especially when you're looking at what $5.99 to start, and you went to $6.99. So what do you think about all the different prices that are out there for OTT services? I mean, there's a lot of different prices going on. Obviously, you all are at the low end. You've got the under $10 and able to work out the business side of that. But give me your thoughts in general around different pricing strategies that are in the market.
Yeah, I mean, we like being at the low end, right? We like being the lowest. We thought long and hard. I mean, the initial pricing that we came out with, we thought very, very long and hard. Obviously, it coming out at $5.99, we felt like it was really strong value for the price. And since we've added, you know, almost 20 channels since we launched, and so we think that obviously like that price to value equation has just gotten stronger for us. You know, I think it's as far as kind of on a whole, you know, like I said, we like being the lowest. I think the consumers are more and more educated these days, and they understand, I think, what's out there and what they can get for their dollar. I mean, I know you guys have talked about some research that suggests that you're creeping up to your traditional MVPD pricing with kind of OTT services. But I think that it is an ever-changing environment, and consumers are becoming, or are more aware than ever as to the prices out there for the content that they can get.
Yeah, it is really interesting when you add all the numbers up to know, and our data coming back out of the field from 10,000 broadband households each quarter. Our latest data is showing that OTT average subscriber monthly fees are now surpassing cable by $5 a month. However, the cord cutting group used to pay on average $115 a month. And so there's this 115 and 85. So there's a $35 a month difference the cord cutters are paying. And that actually adds up to billions of dollars if you do the math there. And so, that's a big question as to whether these individual prices are going to creep up. I mean, I think we saw it back in the cable days, and I do want to go there back in history and understand if, that same question, if we're looking at some repeat of what's been done with this curated, channel set to come out with a bundle that's very sticky, and then the prices kind of go up, and consumers, pretty much show a willingness to pay. I think in the new world, though, the ease of in and out of the service is so much easier, that's where the churn issue comes in. So, I mean, do you think that the future is all about the bundle? Do you think that speaks more towards, the ease of watching, and maybe the devices coming into play where consumers are like, well, I'll buy this streaming and I can watch it on my laptop, my phone, at my TV. I can log in anywhere, my mom's house. What's, in your view, what's driving the bundle? And is this where this is going, which is really where it went in the cable world?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to that question, I think. We've always kind of taken the view that there's value in the bundle, and there's obviously value on having content all on one platform, especially for our demographic of the consumer that's kind of taking our product as it stands today. So we do see the value in that clearly. I think back to maybe one of your initial questions about what makes a strong partnership, and I think kind of expectations need to be aligned there in terms of like the consumer's price sensitivity. You go along, you add more content, clearly like our costs increase, and so there is a need to pass some of that on to the consumer. And so, I think it just need to be aligned there in terms of kind of how you're viewing the market and how you're viewing kind of growing. I think that, there is a churn factor today that's, I don't think was ever there, not in the same sense, to your point about the ease of canceling, switching services, coming back. I do think that there is, something to be said for like leaving and coming back. And there's as long as you're there the next year that the consumer leaves or whenever they come back, obviously like that kind of adds to overall LTV and is something that you can look at when evaluating your SAC or your subscriber acquisition costs initially. I think there's a number of factors there that are coming into play and kind of evaluating the landscape today as it was, or versus kind of the traditional cable days.
Yeah, I was just reading a few articles this morning, actually back from like 2013 and 2007, and it's really interesting. There's a lot of similarities going on. I want to kind of round out our conversation in talking about multi-device world and the different generations. We have these younger people these days who are pretty much have devices attached to them. I have 3 kids, and I'm always like taking something away from them that's electronic. And so it's really a different world, and that lifetime value, right? This is something that in the broadband world with cable, I mean, we're always looking at the lifetime value of the customer. And how do you do that in the OTT world? And how are you all going to prepare for those younger generations that, maybe don't, like my kids don't even, like cable is, they'll sort of sometimes watch TV if we pretty much make them turn on the TV or the cable, but otherwise it's YouTube, it's OTT all the way for them. And they kind of roll their eyes at me when I bring up like cable. So how are you going to attract these younger demographics? And they're going to get older, and then they're going to be our customers. And so what are you all doing to capture those? And how do you think of lifetime value for your customers?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it really is just kind of driving awareness as much as possible that, content that we have available is appealing to the younger demographic. And so I think, we've solved, I think, for some of that with the addition of our, some of the addition of our new content. So it's really kind of reaching those customers, and then I guess just providing like a value prop that makes sense for them. I also think we have kind of, depending on the content that you have that you're able to provide, you can reach those customers in different ways. Obviously, there's different platforms, social media that they're on that maybe the traditional older demographic is not on. So just kind of figuring out how to best kind of market to that group and make drive awareness. But as far as lifetime value, I mean, we just think about how long a customer sticks around, on average, and then just how are we able to kind of potentially add to that from a unit economics basis. And that's really kind of how we think about that at a high level.
Okay, that's great. Let me ask one more question in terms of incremental revenues possibilities. So do you see a future where perhaps somebody, buys the base service and then has some kind of add-on, like a $1.99 or $2.99 or whatever 99 number you want to add there that, enhances the content experience for some specific, channel, or is a partnership with some other brand that they can then, this idea of adding incremental revenue every month through these additional experiences through partnerships. And, maybe there's music, maybe there's the Fight Club stuff that goes on. There's streaming music, there's social, there's brands. I mean, there's so much out there. Do you see a future for Friendly that incorporates any of that in anytime soon?
Yeah, I mean, we recently added Hallmark Movies Now as an add-on, and so we've seen some strong success with that. I think it's a very good complement for our existing product, and so we've seen really strong success, just take rate associated with that for our existing base. I think that you need to be evaluate just kind of the impact of you don't want to overwhelm the customer. You don't want to make it too complicated as far as I'm concerned. And so you got to just be aware of like, what's the, are those services attractive, and without like kind of diluting your service and your offering. And so, I think that's how we would think about it. Because otherwise you don't want to just throw things at the wall and hope they stick. It's, we really want to provide things that are of value to our customers.
Absolutely. Yep, that makes sense. Now, I do have an audience question that ties into that. So let me bring that in here real quick. And this may be our last question for you. Friendly TV offers 3 tiers of competitive pricing. Which tier is your most successful and why?
Our classic plan is the most successful. Most customers take that. I think it just has to do with the ability to have multiple streams and DVR, the DVR capacity, and HD. So I think we see kind of similar trends there. I think that versus others in the industry.
Okay, great. Well, Mike, let me let you have the final word here and tell us what you think 2022 is going to bring for the industry, and that will, end our conversation. It's really a pleasure talking to you today.
Yeah, you as well. No, I think we're excited at Friendly TV for 2022. As I mentioned earlier, I think we've learned a lot in our few years, and so we're really looking forward to providing customers with new content and new capabilities, and really just improving our service. And excited to see how the industry as a whole shakes out. Obviously, there's a lot going on. I think there'll be some consolidation, some exits of players, and so it'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds.
Absolutely. Well, we will be tracking those numbers closely and also sharing what we can with the industry. So I want to thank you again for joining us. I hope the next time is in person. But again, we very much appreciate you. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, well, great. Well, awesome conversation there with Mike, co-founder and CFO of Friendly TV. If you give us just a few minutes, we'll be right back for our interactive panel discussion with our contributing senior analyst, Eric Sorensen. Thank you.
Did you know that 69% of U.S. broadband households have used at least one type of online streaming service in the past 30 days? Download our new webinar, How to Build a Winning OTT Strategy, Balancing Content and Platforms in collaboration with BitMovin. Opportunities and challenges fill today's landscape for streaming video services. A greater number of consumers than ever before are consuming OTT video, with a corresponding jump in variables that impact the user experience. Different types of content consumed on different types of devices by different customer segments. In this competitive market, delivering a streaming video service to market quickly with the high quality of experience consumers now expect is crucial. The threat of churn is ever present. Switching services is easy, and retention is difficult. This webinar explores the challenges of meeting this diverse mix of expectations across varying content types, audiences, and customer segments, and best practices in addressing them. Join us as we discuss the multiple variables across content types, platform preferences, and consumption patterns that OTT providers must consider. Download the webinar now to receive insights on how companies can accomplish their target time to market while still addressing all of these factors.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back. That was some great insights from Mike McLean of Friendly TV. I especially like to hear his insights on how Friendly TV is valuing the bundle and considering price sensitivity with their customers. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, you can certainly go back into SwapCard and watch the entire interview with Elizabeth Parks. So now we move to our panel discussion, and I am honored to present our group of panelists today. They are here on the screen. We are joined by Susan Aliata of Samsung Electronics, Matt Durgan of LG, Matt Graham, GM of Acorn TV, Vikrant Mathur, CEO of Future Today, and Miguel Rodriguez from Kaltura. I'll be moderating today's panel, and we are thrilled to have you here for this conversation. And we thank you again for joining us for what promises to be an excellent discussion. I want to invite our audience to submit your questions for the panel via SwapCard. as they arise during our presentation, and we'll address them as soon as possible during the Q&A session. Before we begin, I'd like to ask all of our panelists to identify themselves and tell us a little bit about their responsibilities and their respective companies. So why don't we start with Susan Aliana. Hi, Susan. Are you there?
I am.
Thanks for joining
Hello.
us. Hi. Give
As
us
you
a
said,
quick intro
on
what you do there at Samsung.
Yeah, so much these days, actually. So I'm a director of business development at Samsung. I work with our largest global streaming partners to bring them to our platform on our devices. And things have been busy over the past few years.
Sure. Well, thank you. We look forward to getting into the discussion on how you're managing or working with OTT streaming partnerships. Next, we'll go to Matt Durgan, who is Senior Director of Smart TV Business for LG. Matt, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can. Yep. Thanks for joining us.
That worked. So yeah, very similar to Susan. I manage the team of people here for North America partnerships. It's content partnerships. It's sometimes technology partnerships. We've been involved in the advertising partnerships. And one of the things that's interesting about LG is we've had our WebOS platform in market since 2014, and it's a global TV platform that features tons of great content, LG channels, 350 services, but expanding now to things like fitness, shopping, and gaming. And the last thing I'll say is we're licensing WebOS globally to more than 170 global TV brands this year and next year. So it's very exciting right now with WebOS, tvOS, global reach, and great content experiences.
Well, certainly excited to have you as part of our panel. Let's go to Matt Graham, who is the General Manager of Acorn TV. Matt, you want to tell us a little bit about you?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I'm Matt Graham with Acorn TV. I'm the General Manager. We're the premier streaming service focused on mysteries and dramas from the UK and beyond. We're in North America, Australia, Latin America, parts of Europe, and Africa. And we're part of the AMC Network's portfolio of streaming services, including AMC Plus, Shudder, Sundance Now, which I also am the GM of.
Great, thank you. How about Vikrant Mathur? Are you there?
Yeah, hi, Eric. I'm here. Hi. Thanks for having me. So I'm co-founder of Future Today. We operate two lines of businesses. We have our owned and operated channels that we operate on pretty much all of the streaming platforms: Roku, Amazon Fire, Samsung, LG, many others. And we have a second line of business, which is our technology and platform business, where we white label our technology for media brands and content companies that want to leverage it to launch their owned and operated both AVOD services as well as FAST channels across various devices and platforms.
Great. Well, we thank you for joining us as well. And last but not least is Miguel Rodriguez, SVP of Product and Media at Kaltura. Are you there, Miguel?
I am. Hi, Eric.
Hi.
Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. So I'm Miguel Rodriguez. I'm the SVP of Product at Kaltura. And basically what I do at Kaltura is creating amazing products. Kaltura basically empowers the video experience of any customer. And we have a great product that works not just in media and telecom, but we also provide virtual events, we provide education in many more areas. And so specifically in my area in media and telecom, we're helping people leverage the content, the amazing content that they have, and kind of do what Netflix, Amazon, and others have done, and bring that to the multitude of devices and an amazing experience so that they can reach the customers directly.
Thank you all for joining us today. Just a quick note here. This is everybody's business and information as we sort of get into the details of what we're talking about. Today, we're going to spend some time talking about OTT bundling partnerships with our entire panel. And I see everybody is panned up there. So it's great to see all of your faces now. I'm looking at a couple different screens. So great to finally see everybody's face. So before we begin today, I wanted to give a quick overview of what our discussion topic is. We were talking about OTT bundling and partnerships, and really how we really continue to see these to grow and what we're looking for to happen in 2022. I think we have some great perspectives with our entire panel here. And one of the things, the first question that I sort of wanted to throw out is thinking about today, where you are today and where you were maybe a year ago, which is, what is your current level of activity with bundling and partnerships compared to a year ago? And maybe I'll start with Susan, if you can give us a little insight on how last year was compared to the state of the market that you're in right now.
Yeah, so bundling is not new, for the record, and some of the speakers earlier, I think, are really excellent in sort of addressing the opportunity there. I think for us, I mean, we're just seeing more of it. I think we do need, though, to take a step back and acknowledge that there's been about 10 years of transformation over the last 2 years. And so a lot of what we're seeing, particularly in the bundling space, is a reaction to that, whether that's hardware bundling, whether that's content owner bundling. Different strategies are basically being tried and tested in market. I think that we're going to see another year or 2 years of this transformation. I think then will sort of equalize a bit. But right now is very much a test and learn approach for everyone in market, given the rapid exponential growth of the number of streaming services in market.
Great. And how about Matt Durgan, from your perspective at LG? What are you sort of seeing this year compared to last year?
Yeah, I think, well, one of the evolution points that that I can compare to previous years is that I think bundling becomes an opportunity to tell the story of a partnership, right? So, in the past, you'd execute a contract, you'd do some technology, you'd launch the partnership on the device. But I think what people are starting to feel now is that I want to do something special. I want to tell this story in a way that's going to get consumers interested, get businesses to recognize that I'm doing these activities with our partnerships. And so I think both sides are looking at it and saying, can I tell a story that's going to cut through the noise of all this development that's happening? And can I do that with a bundle or with some kind of an offer? And I think that's great. But per Susan's point, when you start doing a ton of that, then that loses its effect. So you have to manage what you're doing, how much that you're doing, what other people are doing in the market. And you have to avoid the other scenario where and everyone's doing it so much that it becomes the noise that you're trying to cut through.
Right, I think that's really good insight. Somebody else want to speak on that? I thought I heard somebody trying to chime in there. Was that Matt? That wasn't you, was it, Matt Graham?
I was turning off my mute, but maybe it was my kids. Sorry.
No worries. Virtual sessions, right? Okay, so the next question that I sort of wanted to throw out to the panel is thinking about what are you trying to achieve when you're bundling, both maybe externally and internally? And I know, Matt, when we spoke earlier this week, you did have some perspective on the different types of bundles that you work on, specifically with AMC Plus, right? And where Acorn TV sort of fits into that mix.
Sure. Yeah. So I think if you look at what we're doing internally, so AMC Plus is actually a bundle of most of the services that in AMC's suite. So you've got AMC content, you've got Shudder content, Sundance Now content, All Black content. And really, so that the way I look at that is, or we would look at it, is it's a segmentation, right? So there's a certain consumer who wants all of that for a couple dollars more. There's another consumer who wants just Sundance Now for a couple dollars less. So that actually helps us sort of find efficiency, serve the customers exactly the way they want to be served with the kind of content they want. So that's a real opportunity, and it's sort of a refining of the direct-to-consumer streaming strategy, B2B for that matter. On the Acorn side, we aren't part of that bundle because it's a mature service. It's been around for a decade now. We've got a really strong voice and positioning, and the bundling we've been doing there is more, it's really sort of promotion and promotional bundling, which is an effort to break through the clutter, I think, as Matt was saying. There's so much noise, so much competition. 2 years ago, we didn't do any promotion, any sort of discounts or bundling whatsoever with Acorn TV. Mm-hmm. I think that the pandemic, as everyone knows, sort of pulled the streaming sort of evolution forward, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it is. So we've moved out of this kind of easy growth phase. We sort of skipped a bunch of years, and now it's knives out, fighting for customers, really having to do come up with creative, innovative ways to get beyond our paid marketing and organic marketing efforts and find partnerships that allow us to continue to scale. So it's really about creating new channels for driving customer growth.
And I know over Thanksgiving, you guys did something special with a Black Friday promotion. I didn't know if you wanted to sort of speak to that and how maybe that bundle has sort of affected your growth as well.
So I think the B2B partners, and here, for us, it's the big guys like Amazon and Roku are so important for growth. And so they're looking to drive engagement, looking to drive their active users, and looking to provide value. So as sort of gatekeepers to the customer, they're saying, well, we're going to offer up a promotion, and the companies that want to sign up for it and offer some kind of discount, added value to users on our platforms are going to get extras, better merchandising over a certain period of time. So if you want to grow, it's sort of a pay to play situation, and the growth you get is terrific. But what we're seeing is that whereas a few years ago we could sort of count on our service, the sort of stickiness, the sort of retention of every customer, being sort of consistent over time, these big promotions bring in a lot of people, but then you get a lot of people churning out. The hope is that you net out ahead of where you were, but I think you're seeing just more and more customers trying out services, bringing them on for short periods of time because they're hitting that limit in the number of services they're willing to stack. There's sort of total cost per month is sort of hit a ceiling, and so they're sampling and just not they're jumping from service to service and using these deals, these Black Friday like deals, as an opportunity to do that cost effectively.
Great. Well, very, very insightful on sort of the position that as a content owner and creator that you guys sort of take. I want to go to or remind our audience that we do have a poll question out there. And that poll question is, when it comes to bundling, what is considered a successful metric? So please, panel, you can take it as well, but I'll certainly be asking you the question specifically. But one of the things that we want to think about is, as you're negotiating or thinking about these different types of deals, what is a successful metric to measure the bundle by? Is it customer acquisition? Is there something that sort of makes a successful bundle or partnership? And maybe Miguel, maybe that's something that you can jump in and sort of share with us your perspective on what makes a successful bundle.
Yeah, so I think first of all, one of the key aspects is, are you able to increase your number of customers, and are they happy with your service, and are they happier as you get that bundle? So I think when you look over, is it 6 months or is it a year, you actually want to see your customer rate growing. You want to see that churn decreasing, and you want to make sure that as you go and find more and more bundling opportunities, that you're actually increasing your reach, and that having those bundling opportunities is giving you that space to find new business where before you didn't have any. So I think obviously there are a lot of ways to measure the bundle, but I would strongly argue that a key one would be just looking at the customers and seeing that you're decreasing the churn because they don't feel the need to go to another service because they just want to see a different platform, or they don't want to go to your competition because your competition might have 1 or 2 apps that you don't have and you didn't put into that bundle. And so I think one of the key things that when we talk with our customers, they're looking at is really, has this new bundle actually allowed me not to lose customers, but actually to start gaining customers, either from my competition or just customers who were not looking at those types of content before than what you had in the past. So I would say that probably the customer acquisition rate and the decreasing churn would be one of the strong first reasons and first KPIs that you should have when you have bundling.
Well, certainly, I think our audience agrees with you as we look at sort of the poll question there. We see that the top 2 answers there are reduced cost of customer acquisition and customer retention, which speaks highly to what Miguel was talking about. Any other thoughts there on sort of our poll question, or is there something that maybe is missing from this list that anybody wants to jump in on?
I think just from a platform side,
Susan, go ahead.
Our metrics of success is engagement, right? So we're a platform. We very much care about users coming to our platform, staying in our platform, and finding the content that they want when they want to watch it. So for us, it's about that mutual benefit of our users, our consumers, highly engaged in our platform, and also for our partners, again, those same metrics of, are they getting new subscribers? Are they reducing churn? And overall, is their business growing on our platform?
Yeah, the only other thing I might put into the conversation is the method of distributing any of these offers, right? So there's a number of ways that these offers can get distributed, and I think the idea is you want consumers to be aware that these offers are available. You want them to feel like they can find a way through whatever maze these companies put to get these offers. And so you have this breakage, you have this redemption rate. There's a lot of ways of measuring the effectiveness of getting these offers to consumers, and I think that's a whole conversation in itself that plays a big role in whether or not you're creating a successful promotion.
Not to totally shift gears here a little bit, but I do want to bring Vikrant into the conversation, specifically from your perspective of your owned and operated apps. And as you think about your bundled partnerships, sort of thinking about sharing data with your partners, right? So maybe you could speak a little bit to, what you're able to share, what you're comfortable sharing, and how does that maybe build out or grow the partnership? Like, what are the values of sharing data maybe?
Sure. Yeah, and we're a little bit different, Eric, because we don't have a subscription product. Mm-hmm. We operate hundreds of apps, and when we work with a partner, we are potentially launching tens of them, right? So, and all of these are free ad supported. So from our standpoint, and maybe just touching upon the previous question, from our standpoint, even though there is there isn't really a cost per se of including apps within that bundle, right? Similar to what a carriage contract may look like, but still there is time and effort and resources that are devoted to launching these apps, right? So if we're working with an OEM and if we're putting together a package of 20, 30 different apps that we're launching, we, to Susan's point, we look at engagement, we look at retention, we try to figure out how often are folks coming back, and how much of the content is being consumed, right? Because right now I feel like one of the reasons why people are migrating away from traditional cable into the world of streaming is because of the choice that it offers, right? I'm not being forced to pay for or consume content that I don't want to, right? And so that's kind of how we look at it. And from to your question, from a free ad supported service standpoint, data is very, very critical to us in terms of, one, how well we are able to enhance the consumer experience and really provide the discovery that's needed for consumers to be able to find the right type of content and consume it in a way that's seamless and that makes sense for them, so that they come back and again consume more and watch more content. So there's data that ties into that aspect of running the operations in the service. And then very important again is on the other side, the data which is needed to be able to monetize this audience, right? So because we are free ad supported, we need to be able to make sure that we are able to run the right type of advertising. We have the right KPIs, we have the right data values that are being passed through, not just to us, but even downstream, so that we're able to segment the audience properly, we're able to target them properly, mm-hmm. and then we're able to measure and report against it effectively, right? So so there's a bunch of data across both of these dimensions in terms of consumer viewership as well as monetization that we're looking at. And I would say it also depends what is available to us and what we can share downstream with our partners. It depends on the type of service that we're running. So, if it's a fast channel, then it's a separate set of KPIs and metrics. If it's an ad-supported experience that we're looking at, then it's a separate set of separate set of KPIs. And then, also if you're working directly with the OEM, and if you have, potentially access to the hardware through the APIs that they may have built and exposed out to your developers, or you're looking at a third-party content service where you're just plugging the content in and getting the benefits of the viewership through their service. So I would say it all depends, but for the most part, what we see is, from a monetization perspective, we're able to, in pretty much every single case, we're able to get the device IDs, the IP addresses, the core components that we need to be able to monetize the content effectively. I think there are other additional add-on KPIs and data points, such as metadata around the content specifically that's being consumed, ratings, genres, etc., which are very, very interesting and enhance the relevancy of the ads that you can potentially show, and thereby improve the user experience. That some platforms can do it and are able to pass that information, and some aren't. But I think just we are advancing in the industry where everybody's working on these things, and for the most part, people are able to share back the data.
That certainly plays into sort of where I wanted to go next, which is sort of thinking about that user experience. And I think when we chatted last week, we sort of hit on an interesting topic, which was, what factors do we think we want to kind of solve for the consumer? And Miguel, I think you brought up a really interesting topic, and sort of how it relates to bundles a little bit, right? And I think that key point that you brought up was about solving the user experience. And there's a lot of things that bundles can do to help solve a user experience. If you want to speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, so I think when you thought about bundles, I don't know, 5 years ago, it was always a discussion about price, right? So people always in their minds, they would look at an offer of a bundle and they would see, okay, so if I pay this independently, I'm going to spend, I don't know, £5 extra. And if I buy it through the bundle, then I'm saving some money. But has this evolved? I think with a lot of the services now being even ad-based, you kind of lose that one of those values, and this becomes not just a price discussion, but I think it becomes an experience. You need to start thinking, why do people want to use bundles? And it's a lot more than just price. Obviously, price helps, but I think it's a lot more than that. One of the things that when Kaltura talks with our customers, what we see is, first of all, no one wants to have multiple devices. So you don't want to be that person that has 5 remote controls in your living room, and you need to make the decision before you even decide what you want to watch. You need to decide what is the remote control that you're going to pick up, because that's going to influence what you're going to watch next, and that just makes no sense whatsoever. You don't want to have this kind of multitude of apps spread through all the devices in your house, and then you need to pick one of those devices so that you can decide what content you want. And I think to a big degree, a lot of the platforms that have now aggregated and done really good bundles and made all of the major platforms available in a single device have really made this much, much easier for the customer. But a second part is people don't trust all the services equally, right? So no one wants to go and put their credit card details into 100 different apps. Maybe you'd be comfortable with, the top 2 or 3 that you mostly trust. Maybe you would be comfortable with your cable provider because they already have your credit card details. But that's one of the core values of the bundle, is you have that confidence relation with the customer. You can say, look, this will come into your monthly bill. You don't need to put your credit card details. You don't need to pay anything in addition and go through that process anymore. And so people are looking to these kind of advantages, not just when you pay on the devices. They're looking for some simplicity when you sign on. You don't want to put credentials like you do on the web. You want just to click a button and it's there, you're into the system. And so when you look at these advantages, you really start seeing that bundling today is a lot more around also the experience, and how do you discover content after that? Can you provide some consistency in the bundle apps that you're giving to the customer? Can you have like a single search or a recommendation engine that goes through all the content in all the apps? And so I think going forward and going into the future, what I would say and what I would like to see is that we move into this world where bundling is a lot more about how we make our customers' lives easier. How do we make that experience excel in a way that if you leave the bundle, you wouldn't have? And I think if you're able to do that, then people will start thinking, look, I really prefer to be in the bundle, because when I'm in the bundle, I have all of these choices. And when I'm out, I have nothing. And so I think that's what we'll see in the future. I think whoever can influence and give the best experience will probably win in this kind of game between being inside or outside of the bundling.
Matt Durgan, any thoughts on what the customer is looking to see or looking for in a bundle?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I want to pull out something that Miguel was touching on there, which is this evolution that we're seeing in TV, where you have linear, you have streaming, you have over the air, you have fast. And in a lot of cases, you have content companies participating in all those models. So I think one of the things that what bundling can do or measurement can do, and the fact that when you're a TV platform, you are the glass and you can understand, okay, what's happening on the HDMI port, what's happening over the air, what's happening in my fast environment, what's happening with my app partnerships. You can see how consumers are moving around. And I think it becomes important for LG, and it becomes important for our partners to start doing things that makes it easy for consumers to go from one environment to the other. Great example probably, would be NBC in the Olympics, right? I mean, this content can be in a lot of different places at the same time, and you want to be able to do things that can give consumers confidence that they're going to find what they're looking for. And they might be going from, an NBC property to an NBC property in a totally different way of consuming content, but that should be okay. It should be exciting. It should be part of the growth and evolution of TV. And I think that becomes a responsibility for, people like Susan and myself, because as a TV manufacturer, you are really that last step before the consumer is actually making those choices.
Very, very fair and interesting perspective. Matt Graham, being the content person on our panel here, from your perspective, what is it that you think that users want to see in a bundle?
So we're sort of playing a different game at AMC, and Acorn is a great example of it. We're very targeted, and we're about having a relationship with the customer, understanding the customer, and super serving them right with a reliable, unique stream of content that they can't get anywhere else. So for us, we're about long-term relationships, right? The lifetime value of our customers comes from months and months and months of subscribing to our service. So we don't actually see a huge opportunity in bundles, not right now anyways, the sort of short-term promotional aspects aside, because really you're talking about, if it's a relatively, we don't need to be in 100 million households to run a really profitable, nice business. So trying to scale up, giving away control of the customer, giving away data, giving away ARPU is we've looked at that. And even if we were in 100 million households, I'm not sure that is a better business for us than one where our customers trust us. We know them, we know how to make them happy, and we build incrementally on that. So they're really different models, which I think is great, because I don't think it's a winner take all. There are going to be bundling strategies that blow up and are huge and are really attractive. And here I'm talking about bundling, different content offerings.
Sure.
But I think that working outside of that, you can build really great businesses by staying focused on your relationship with the customer, direct one-to-one relationship with the customer.
And I hope that our audience has done some research on what Acorn TV is. But I think I just want to sort of throw this out there. Do you sort of feel like, or thinking about viewing bundleships in a different way from your perspective? Is it because you have a niche sort of loyal audience, right? That it may not necessarily make strategic sense for you to look at other content bundles in that way or partnership bundles?
Right. That's exactly right. We offer something that our audience can't get anywhere else. So it's British and international dramas and mysteries. They're high quality. We have a very sort of robust and mature programming strategy, and an audience that is incredibly loyal. We've been around, like I said earlier, for 10 years. We have 10 years where we've grown every single month for 10 years straight. Right. So it's a strategy that works, and in some ways, probably in every way, it's a counter programming strategy to what's available on broadcast cable networks and on the other streaming services now. But that's, that is sort of unique. I think that if you have if you look at things like Discovery, the Discovery Warner kind of merge link up. That's a bundle, right? Disney Plus is a bundle. So if you want to be in 100 million households, you have to have you have to have content for everyone in the household. And so those are companies bundling what they can get their hands on to, make everyone in the household happy. So I think there is, there scale, if your business relies on scale, the bundle is going to make sense. If you're in the hundreds of thousands or single to low double digit millions kind of range, you probably don't need it.
Yeah, if Eric, maybe if I can add, the way I kind of think about this is, from a consumer's perspective, it's all about getting value, right? At the end of the day, we all want value, and some consumers may value the content, and so they really want British dramas, and that's what they care for, and they're willing to pay a premium for it, and they're probably willing to compromise on consumer experience. In some cases, it's cost, and people are just price sensitive, and they want to get access to meaningful content, may not be a specific niche, and they're willing to pay for it, but they want to pay the least amount that they can, and so that's what they perceive as value. And in some cases, people want the right consumer experience. They want ease of discoverability. They want, the ability to be able to find and discover and get to unique and interesting content as quickly as they can. And so I think, it's been touched upon, I think, in multiple different ways. But I think at the end of the day, we all have to think about what is the value that we're offering to our customers, and what is that? Why would the customer be willing to pay for a bundle? Because right now in the traditional world, we're all suffering from that problem where we don't have a choice. We're being charged too much, and the experience is terrible, right? And so if we have to make the bundle be a success, we have to improve across at least one of those three dimensions, if not more.
Anybody else want to add to that before I sort of move on to my next topic?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to follow on from both Matt and Vikrant, I mean, consumer first, right? And I think the consumer will ultimately win. I think from the Samsung perspective, though, the way we view value through a few different lenses, and not just through offering content, but offering the right content experience to our consumers, whether that's on smart TV, whether that's on mobile. So what is that experience throughout the ecosystem? So we know that smart TVs are the fastest growing segment across devices. So smart TVs will outnumber streaming media devices if they've not already surpassed them. So we have to think really deeply about what is that experience in the smart TV? How do promotions play a role in that? But also, how does that one consumer actually experience those different touch points throughout the ecosystem, whether that's on their phone, whether that's on their smartwatch, whether that's actually on a traditional TV?
Now that's super helpful to think about the smart TV, sort of how you guys are viewing sort of partnerships as part of the user experience. I think the other piece of the user experience that we want to sort of touch on is discoverability, right? And how are partnerships playing a role in discoverability? I don't know, Miguel, maybe you want to start this conversation off?
Yeah, so in the past, I've worked with a lot of these providers, Alexa and Google being some examples, and for the user, when you think about, everyone has been talking in the industry around aggregation, and when you talk about bundles, we mentioned one of the values is that people probably want a place where you can search once and then you find whatever the content is, you find it. I think we'll very quickly see a place where you're going to have so many providers, not just in apps, but in different channels. We're just mentioning FAST as an example here, or anything else, that people don't really want to have the apps to understand if the content is available. And I actually think that the voice is going to be what breaks this discoverability problem, because if you can say through your voice what you're searching for, then no one will expect you to already be inside the app that will give you that content. And so I think this starts kind of triggering that there needs to be some platform capabilities, either on a smart TV, like the people we have here, or any other app that you have. For example, if you're a content owner, you're surely going to want to integrate voice capabilities. If you're a cable provider, you will want to integrate these capabilities. But I think from a user perspective, he will want to say what he's searching for only once. If you're searching for Iron Man, you're not going to go into every single app that you have and say, like, is Iron Man available? And then you do that 10 times until you find it. You just want to do that once. So I really think that these partnerships with all of the voice assistant providers are going to be crucial for you to be able to provide that increase in discoverability going forward. And I really believe this is going to be the beginning of having great platforms. And whoever is the best platform that can integrate probably the most is going to come on top of this.
And I know from the TV manufacturer perspective, sort of thinking about the voice integration challenges are certainly a challenge. I don't know if Susan or Matt, you want to talk about your partnerships and integration with, maybe like the Alexas and the Siris of the world?
Yeah, we love voice. We're Switzerland, right? So we work with all. We are a multi-voice assistant platform. We strongly believe that, yes, voice is the future. We're not there yet, right? To be honest, I think that the consumer experience with voice has a lot to be desired. I think this is an industry-wide issue. It's a tech issue, right? It's an AI issue more than anything else. But once we do get there, it will be a much more seamless experience. I do think, though, part of the challenge, right? And so to the example, you want to find out where you can watch Iron Man. What if 10 platforms carry Iron Man, right? And I think what we're seeing right now, especially with content going back and forth or content just being available on a multitude of platforms, presents that secondary challenge that we all need to solve for. And that challenge is not just query, but it's also actual intent of the user.
Mm-hmm. So, but that plays into the discoverability piece, right? That would a bundle or a partnership with somebody help you with that? Would the user help with that experience?
Well, I think it depends, right? It's a complicated question. Maybe, maybe not, right? I think it depends on what that bundle is. I think it depends on what that data is that gets passed back and forth, right? What are those signals involved in that partnership? And that's why, from our perspective, the technology partnerships are just as important as the content partnerships, because that really is the fuel of the platform. That's what delivers the experience. The content is the frosting on top, certainly, but we need to develop that engine of discoverability first.
The other, you led me to my next question, which is great. Thank you, Susan. Which was really what's more advantageous, right? A content partnership or a technology partnership? And maybe Vikrant, you could speak to, from your perspective, working with a lot of technology partners or content partnerships, what is more advantageous? What is actually going to provide the end user a better experience at the end of the day, to your point?
I've been having operated so many channels over all these years. I don't think, it's a mutually exclusive answer, right? Mm-hmm. You, to Susan's point, you need both, right? Without the right content, you can drive people to your app or your service, but they're eventually going to leave. And you may have the most amazing content, but if somebody cannot find it, then what's the point? So I think, you really need to work across both fronts, right? And obviously there's this use case of, wanting to watch Iron Man, but I think that's a specific use case where you know exactly what you want to watch, right? I'm sure all of us have been through, hour-long sessions on Netflix where we don't know what we want to watch, and we end up just browsing and calling it a night because we just spent so much time trying to find the next thing, right? And I think the technology plays a big, big role in helping you understand who your consumer is, what their content needs are, what do they like to watch, how can you surface the right content to them at the right time, so that even if they don't know what they want to watch and they're coming in the experience with an open mind, you're able to surface the right content to them so that the browsing experience that they go through before they select something to watch is shortened. They get to the right content as quickly as possible. And hopefully, because it's relevant and personalized to them, they end up watching for a long period of time. So I feel you have to do both. I don't think you can pick one versus the other.
Fair assessment.
Yeah,
Matt, Durgan, you wanted to jump in there?
Sure. I'll just echo a few things. Great partnerships with Amazon, with Google, great homegrown technology with ThinQ, and great partnership with all of our content partners who have to feed in the metadata as part of our partnership on a day-to-day basis, so that our catalog of available content is always ready to be searched and the most up-to-date information can get in front of the consumer. And I think there's a little bit of a dance here with discoverability because, there's our ad platform. We've invested in LG Ads. We have the opportunity that we can give to our partners and to other advertisers to build awareness when they want to create a spike in awareness. They can come and they can partner with us on an advertising basis, and they can put their content into various ad spots that are all over the device. But also the importance for LG and for TV manufacturers to have areas of the device that's feeding recommendations and feeding content to consumers, so that when they're turning on the TV, they're constantly seeing things that could be interesting to them, that could apply to what they're doing. And then the last piece is customization, and having consumers have the ability to customize their user experience so that the things that they're asking to be upfront are always there for them, so that it's a quick experience for them to launch things that are apps that are their favorites or content that's in their favorites. So I think those are all three areas that LG puts a lot of time into to bring that ease of use to the consumer, but also the power for companies to put their content in front of consumers on their schedule, on their terms.
Fair enough. Matt Graham, from your perspective as a content.
Yeah, the technology is incredibly important. It's critical. And I think whether it's through bundles and promotions, it's in everyone's best interest to work together, share that metadata, like Matt and Vikrant said, make sure that the customers have a great experience. We want Acorn TV customers, we're agnostic, right? We want customers through smart TVs, we want them through the web, through mobile apps, whatever it is. And we feel the pain of platforms that don't have great user experiences, because our customers, we can't merchandise as well, the engagement isn't as good, and our lifetime value isn't as good. So it's incredibly important that the platforms and the content providers work together to make sure that customers are getting the content that makes them happy.
And maybe, Eric, just to add to that, I think maybe a challenging way of putting this question is, imagine if you're someone who wants to do some bundling, and you have two options. You have one option, which is to say, I'm going to pick the guy who has the best content available, but he has no integration points. He doesn't give me metadata. He doesn't be allowed to integrate anything. I don't know any data. I don't know anything that they're doing, but they have great content. Or you're taking full advantage of the technology, and you have this partner that might not have the best content, but they have amazing integration points. And I think when you look at those two options, I have a strong feeling that in the future, people are going to tend towards having more integration, more a better user experience, and having more points where they can make the user more comfortable around searching and discovering than if you just have an isolated stack that's just sitting there. And yes, you've done a great bundle with great content, but it doesn't mix well with the whole experience. So I think that's the way that I see these two versions of technology or content. I think we're going to see more adoption into integration and less just looking at how good the content is.
So we're slowly getting to the what does the future hold for bundling, it sounds like. And I do want to bring up the poll question again, which is in 2022, what kind of bundles will be the most popular? And it looks like 40% have said between two content partners. I know we're talking a lot about how technology and content and technology and data all need to work together, but any additional thoughts on, I guess it's from the end user perspective, right? Which is, I want a easier user experience through my Disney Plus and ESPN and my Hulu experience, right? Is that sort of what we think is going to be the most popular sort of bundles going forward, is really focused on content?
I don't know if I could. I mean, I think it's going to happen at multiple levels, and I think the easiest way to kind of describe it is consolidation. I think you're going to see going forward in the industry consolidation between content companies. You're going to see consolidation where platforms and OEMs are, buying content companies, upstream buying ad technology companies to fulfill the technology and the user experience and the discovery needs. And so I feel like there's just going to be more consolidation, which is going to manifest itself into the most natural form of the bundle, which is the same company offering multiple services and touch points. But I think it's going to be through consolidation as opposed to just partnerships.
Great.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things that I think kind of gets overlooked in the speed that we've all achieved here since 2008, it's been like almost 15 years and TV's transformed. But in a lot of ways, smart TV is what we're talking about. It's about giving consumers that choice. So I want to subscribe to 3 things or 5 things or 2 things. And a lot of the success of smart TV has been about letting consumers unbundle and then rebundle with what's important to them. So I think it's important to kind of come back to where all this innovation really got kicked off. The fire for this innovation was consumers wanting to make their own choices. And I think Vikrant's point about consolidation is absolutely true, because now you see content companies saying, okay, now I can kind of pick and choose how I want to make offers by investing or by combining or merging. And so I think that there's a lot of this happening at the same time. And then the last thing I'll just kick in here, sorry, is the fact that you have all these different business models evolving at the same time. The fact that you have our content partners, Netflix, Amazon, going out and globalizing content. You have Squid Game, you have global content now, becoming available to consumers and famously succeeding. I think that, this is a really interesting dynamic against a fast environment where you have, a lot of experimentation, a lot of different content going up there and getting monetized with ads. So I think there's a lot of fascinating kind of unbundling happening with the bundling and the consolidation at the same time.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I'm going to bring back the phrase micro bundle from a few years ago, because I think that's right. The consumer will win, and the consumer should have an opportunity to pick and choose. And I love Acorn TV personally. I would absolutely select a bundle with Acorn TV. So I actually think in terms of long term, the winners are going to be, I think, platforms to a certain extent. I think actual billing providers to a certain extent, and anyone who really allows that consumer to have choice but get value from that choice as well. Because as we see, certainly in the ecosystem, there are apps like Acorn, like others that are very niche, DAZN, for example, who have fantastic businesses and they're doing extremely well. They'll have the opportunity to continue to do well, despite the fact that, there's 5 apps that are the top streamers in the world. And certainly from the Samsung perspective, we want to make sure our consumers are aware of those opportunities to view these other services.
So at the beginning of today's session, I spoke to how consumers are adopting to a new or subscribing to new services, and 37% of all broadband homes subscribe to a new service from their phone, internet, or cable provider being offered to them under a bundle, right? So I guess collectively, do we think that number is going to continue to increase? It was the largest percentage out of either an aggregator or going directly to the website like netflix.com and signing up, for a subscription. But I think I'm curious if the group thinks that number is going to grow in 2022, where we'll continue to see promotional opportunities and bundling being the reason why somebody signs up for a new subscription.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, what is not a bundle, right, these days? So I think it's about, how do we define bundle, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure all of us are actually part of multiple bundles, even if we don't really know it. So no, I don't think that's going to change. But I agree with everyone else on consolidation, on standardization. And I think that eventually we'll reach a point of maturation where there is not, let's say, the same very aggressive churn rates and not the same very aggressive, say, promotional efforts to basically give users 10 services and see what sticks.
Yeah, I think if you look at the landscape, I think the mechanics may not change in terms of, how people are consuming the bundle, but I think who they're getting them from might change. And as you look at the industry, I feel like the OEMs that control the interface, whether it be the glass or whether it be the set-top box or a USB stick, I think they are in the best position to replace the traditional operators, right? And start to offer the bundles that we have traditionally been consuming through our cable service providers, as an example, right? And I think that's probably going to be the change. I think how well the traditional companies adapt to this new environment and how well can they start offering these new services as part of their internet package or mobile cell phone packages. It remains to be seen, right? Verizon made a big push a couple of years ago into content and media, and it seems like they're now scaling back from it. So I think we would probably still keep getting these bundles, but whether we get them from the traditional guys, I think remains to be seen. I think the OEMs in the streaming space, I think, are in the best position to replace the traditional operators, which is, I think, good news for LG and Samsung.
Anybody else want to comment on that?
I think the sort of consumer electronics device bundle with this streaming services, it's relatively new. Yeah. I think the way I think it'll be interesting to see what the lifetime value of those customers turns out to be. So I think that from the content side, the providers will be looking to see, like, could we have gotten these? Were these valuable customers? We there's always some kind of give in these situations. So was the discount on the ARPU worth it? There's this sort of rush to grab market share right now. So everyone's looking for awareness, and that's a big piece of these plays. So as the space kind of matures very, very rapidly, the drivers behind those partnerships, behind those bundles, is shifting, and it's going to be more about long-term value and not just sort of market share and awareness. So I would guess they're going to change, and really for them to work the on the technology side, those companies are going to have to work harder to make sure that in the long run those customers they bring are valuable to the content providers, because otherwise the content providers are just burning through customers that they may be able to otherwise cultivate into more valuable customers if they brought them on themselves.
Very fair perspective, Matt. I do want to be cognizant of our time here. We have actually about 1 minute left, I think. But I do want all of you to know that we've had some very active questions that have been proposed, that hopefully our panel will be able to join us, or some of you will be able to join us in our Zoom chat with the audience, and I will try to throw some of those questions out to you guys at that time. But I do want to sort of wrap things up here. Any last thoughts, maybe from Miguel, just on what you see the future of 2022 as it relates to bundles?
Yeah, so I think we usually tend to think only of the top tier guys when we talk about bundling, and I think we tend to forget there's a million other content providers out there that cannot afford to ask you for $10 monthly, and probably are just working on very different models that are also very good for bundling. And so I think the future will see a lot of those going into these platforms that can aggregate everyone, and we'll see that the platforms will really be the king of this new era where you get more and more providers with more and more content that is not just the top tier that we see today in the market. So that's at least where I see the future going.
Excellent. Well, I'm getting the wrap it up signal here. So I want to thank all of you guys for participating in our panel. Fantastic insights. We hope to have all of you back next year for our next Future of Video. But thank you again. Really appreciate all of your insights, and great to see your faces. Hopefully, maybe one day we'll see them in person. So thank you again, guys, and we look forward to seeing you again real soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We also hope that you enjoyed it, and you enjoyed this panel and this discussion. And we look forward to seeing all of you in our Zoom room and our networking discussion coming up next. I am also very excited to share that we finalized our 2022 Future of Video calendar, which includes both virtual and in-person events. So please take a look at the calendar and mark it down for 2022, and we hope to see you at our Future of Video event in 2022. As a reminder, if you are interested in following the ins and outs of the OTT market in today's fast-moving streaming environment, be sure to check out our OTT Video Market Tracker, which will give you monthly updates on the OTT market. And don't hesitate to reach out to Jason Paris or anyone else on our sales team at Parks Associates if you are interested in research on OTT connected services or any of the other areas that we cover, such as streaming video, pay TV, connectivity, digital media, and the smart home. Also, if you are interested in sponsorship opportunities, please contact Ashton to discuss event marketing sponsorship opportunities. So as I mentioned, I want to thank everyone who has joined us for this year's Future of Video conference. I get to close this out here. So we'd like to thank all of our sponsors and guests. Again, we could not have done this without you. And we do hope to see you again next year, virtually and in person. Thank you all very much. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon. Take care.